So I've been a hip hop fan or hip hop head, or however you want to say that, for quite a while. Um, since I really started taking rap and hip hop seriously and started really doing the research and knowing all this and that, um, it's probably been going on now 10 years since I really started really telling myself, like, really knowing about what hip hop is about, rap, all that crap. And given that, I pretty much have seen the discussions and stuff and even participated in a few myself about certain aspects of hip hop and what is talked about. And one discussion that has always been around longer, since probably, I don't know, since I was a baby, is about the lyrical discussion. And I feel like when it comes to people who listen to rap, there tends to be a very screwed view of what is lyrical. Sometimes people think being lyrical is about trying to do some Eminem shit where you're just spouting about a bunch of words and rhyming them, and it really has no meaning or content or anything behind it. Another thing is I notice is that people tend to think that to be lyrical, you have to have a certain sound. And what I mean by that is sound like you're very good on a DJ Premier beat. In other words, have a very East Coast sounding flow and cadence. I don't know how many people are listening to this are big Crit fans, but being a big Crit fan myself and having known about him since 2010 and really knowing the other blog era rappers, Crit and J. Cole were always comparable because they were two Southern rappers, especially two Southern blog era rappers that were emerging. And when it came to comparison to them and talking about them and asking who's better than who, Crit always was given a shorthand because Crit was very unapologetically Southern sounding. Cole is very ambiguous. And we all know that because if you listen to Cole, he doesn't really sound like a stereotypical Southern rapper. He sounds, you can't really pinpoint what he sounds like. Some people kind of say he sounds like an East Coast rapper. I disagree. Just because you don't sound like a Southern person, sound like Crit or some stereotypical Atlanta rapper or whatever. That doesn't mean all of a sudden you're East. But Cole was that, and because that, he was always given much more credit and the benefit of the doubt when it came to skills and bars and stuff, whereas Crit kind of had to prove himself. And that's the thing with lyrical talk, is that people think it comes only in those two ways, where you have to sound a certain way like this, you have to do this, and you see this with people, saying lyricism isn't really being used much today. This rapper isn't lyrical, and it can't be further from the truth, because the thing about the lyrical talk is that, for one, all rappers are lyrical. And I know some people who hate today's rap music don't really want to adhere to that and want to listen to that, and they think, that's not true. But here's the thing, lyricism is not something exclusive to a certain group of rappers you like. It's not exclusive to just 90 rappers. It's not exclusive to this group of rappers and such. Lyricism is really just lyricism is like a science. It's like a very accessible science as breathing. All it is the use of figures of speech, the use of similes, the use of rhyming, the use of metaphors, the use of punchlines, the use of puns, the use of wordplay, the use of play on words, multis, eternal rhyme, and so on and so forth. As long as you use those, which, by the way, one thing people do not want to admit, well, I don't think people really don't want to admit, but I think it's the fact that people are just not really listening to what these rappers say. But I've kind of come to the conclusion that, low-key, a lot of today's rappers are a little bit more lyrical than the average rapper in the 90s. And let me get to, and before I elaborate, let me get back to my point about what is lyricism. Because lyricism is all about just using those literary devices. Everyone is lyrical. There is no certain group of rappers. You don't need to be Royce the 5'9" or Eminem to just be lyrical. No, everyone's lyrical to an extent. As long as you're using rhyme, similes, metaphors, internal rhyme, you're a lyricist. You're someone who is lyrical. For you to not be a person who is lyrical, you have to not be rapping. In fact, you have to just be talking on the track. That's the only way you cannot be someone who's lyrical. Is that you're just talking, like what I'm doing. You're not using no similes. You're not using no metaphors. You're just talking. And I think for some rap fans, they like to use the lyrical thing for multiple reasons. Some like to use it to elevate their certain rapper. And people do that all the time. We see that with people in sports. People like to elevate LeBron over Jordan because he's more vocal in issues and all that shit. People like to really add extra stuff. Now, in this case, this really isn't extra. But the thing is, it's very dishonest because the thing is, lyricism and what is lyrical is not something exclusive to certain rappers. It's something that is used by everyone. Everyone's lyrical. Now, in the talks of who's the pure lyricist, that's another discussion. In terms of who is a spitter, who is this and that, those type of titles, okay, but that's a different discussion. If you want to have a discussion on lyrical or lyricism, it should be more on tiers, in my opinion. And for me, like, a discussion like that is still a slippery slope. Well, not really a slippery slope, but it's very arbitrary, and it gets like what it is when it comes to the whole who is lyrical discussion. Which is why, even though I'm someone who is a fan of lyricism, I'm also someone who is kind of, what's the word? I just outgrown it, not to be kind of pretentious, but kind of outgrown this whole who is lyrical. My stance on it is now really this, is that everyone is lyrical. Yeah, you could, and like I said, I do prefer tiers, but I also think that's kind of a slippery slope and it's very arbitrary. But it's probably the closest you can have a discussion on who is more lyrical than who, and such. There is no who is lyrical and who's not. As long as you're using the lyrical devices and using the figures of speech, you're lyrical. Which a lot of rappers are. A lot of rappers today use punchlines. They use wordplay. I just got done listening to 21 Savage's new album with Metro Boomin. 21 to the old head and to the old like cranky ass old dude. 21 Savage is he's not lyrical. No, he has some bars on there. He's using wordplay, metaphors, and in fact, like I said, the average rapper today uses all those devices more so than the average rapper in the 90s. And if you were to go by that lyrically and going off the criteria of using those lyric devices, a lot of today's rappers are more lyrical than the 90s rappers. So that's all I want to say. A little quick take, a little gripe I have about the whole who's lyrical. Everyone's lyrical. There is no who's not and who is. The only way you cannot be lyrical is if you're just someone who's not even rapping, who's not even saying no rhyme, no simile, no metaphor. Everyone's lyrical. Who is a spitter, who is a pure lyricist, like a lyricist, all that type of titles and arbitrary stuff, that's for another discussion. But in terms of who is lyrical, there is no who is lyrical and who is not. Everyone's lyrical. But yeah, y'all, this is just a little quick gripe I had to voice. Thanks for listening. I'll check with y'all in the next video.